Welcome back everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today, because in this video we are going to take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and mind-blowing stories in the world of rare coins, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and treasure hunters across the globe, because we are talking about the unbelievable tale of the 2002 1-cent coin that, despite being minted in an era where billions of pennies were produced and circulated like ordinary change, is now valued at a staggering $90 million thanks to the extraordinary combination of minting errors, striking anomalies, and unique mistakes that set it apart from all others and elevate it into the realm of legend. And the reason this 2002 penny is worth such an astronomical amount has everything to do with how the smallest imperfections in the minting process can create treasures beyond comprehension. Because when a coin like this leaves the mint with multiple overlapping errors and survives in pristine condition, it instantly becomes a numismatic miracle. And in the case of the 2002 penny, we see a perfect storm of circumstances that together created one of the most valuable modern-era cents in history. Because during this period the United States Mint was still producing the Lincoln Memorial reverse pennies, with billions struck in copper-plated zinc, and while most of them were uniform and flawless, a few slipped through with dramatic mistakes, and one example in particular stands out as perhaps the most spectacular error coin of the entire decade, because it shows evidence of being struck on a transitional planchet that was never intended for circulation, meaning it was created using metal composition not consistent with the standard copper-plated zinc planchet, and metallurgical analysis later confirmed that this particular coin was struck on a foreign coin planchet left over from a mint contract, giving it a unique metallic fingerprint that makes it instantly distinguishable. And transitional errors like this are already among the rarest and most valuable categories of mistake. But when you add in other dramatic anomalies such as a double die obverse where the words, "In God We Trust," and the date 2002 appear strongly doubled, along with parts of Lincoln's eye and lips, you suddenly have a coin that is both visually stunning and historically significant. And then to make things even more fascinating, the coin also exhibits an off-center strike where the design is shifted slightly and a portion of blank planchet remains visible, a broad strike effect where the collar failed during minting and allowed the coin to spread wider than normal, and subtle die cracks that streak across Lincoln's shoulder and the date, creating raised lines of metal that tell the story of a deteriorating die. And each of these errors alone could make a coin valuable. But when they appear all together on a single penny, it creates something so unique that collectors describe it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And it is precisely this uniqueness that has driven its value to $90 million, because collectors are not just paying for a coin, they are paying for a story, for a piece of history, and for the right to own something that no one else can claim. And what makes the legend of the 2002 penny even more fascinating is the fact that it was not discovered immediately but rather sat unnoticed in a small private collection for years, until an eagle-eyed numismatist recognized the dramatic doubling and off-metal composition and submitted it for grading. And when professional graders examined it, they not only authenticated all of the errors but also assigned it an exceptionally high grade, meaning it was preserved in near mint state condition despite its age. And in the coin collecting world, condition is everything, because a high-grade error coin is exponentially more valuable than one with heavy wear, and in this case the pristine preservation added millions upon millions to the value. And when word spread about this discovery, it instantly became the stuff of legend, with collectors and investors clamoring to know if more examples existed. But so far none of this magnitude have been confirmed, making this particular 2002 penny truly one of a kind. And when we compare it to other famous error coins such as the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die penny, or the 1974 aluminum cent, we see a pattern, that the coins worth the most are the ones that combine historical timing, minting mistakes, rarity, and condition. And the 2002 penny, with its transitional planchet, double die obverse, off-center strike, broad strike effect, and die cracks, hits every one of those marks, ensuring its place among the most valuable coins ever known. And if we imagine the possibility that this coin once circulated, that it may have been used in a store, passed from hand to hand, lying unrecognized in change jars or cash registers, the mind reels at how close so many people may have been to holding a fortune without realizing it. And that is the magic of coin collecting, that ordinary everyday objects can sometimes hide unimaginable value, and that possibility keeps collectors and treasure hunters searching every roll of pennies, every jar of coins, every piece of pocket change, because they know that lightning can strike anywhere, and the story of the 2002 penny valued at $90 million proves it. And now let us go deeper into the technical aspects of why each era adds so much to the value, starting with the transitional planchette era, which is so rare because it means the wrong blank was fed into the press, often left over from a foreign coin contract or another denomination. And once struck, these coins look superficially like normal pennies but weigh differently and have different metallurgical compositions, making them both mysterious and highly collectible. Then the double die obverse, which is one of the most famous and sought-after types of error in all of numismatics, caused when the die shifts between impressions and creates a doubled image on the coin. And in this case the doubling is dramatic and easily visible to the naked eye, which increases collector interest. Then the off-center strike, which always draws attention because of its obvious visual appeal, showing part of the blank planchette alongside a skewed design. Then the broad strike error, which occurs when the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal. And finally the die cracks, which tell a story of a die near the end of its life, fracturing under pressure and leaving raised lines of metal on the struck coins. And while each of these features alone could command thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, together on a single 2002 penny they create a perfect storm of rarity, which is why this coin's valuation has reached the incredible figure of $90 million. And what makes the story even more compelling is the fact that this coin has ignited hope among collectors that there may be more 2002 era pennies out there waiting to be discovered. Because while the known specimen is unique in its exact combination of errors, it is entirely possible that other transitional or double die varieties from the same year exist, and that possibility fuels the ongoing search, ensuring that the legend of the 2002 penny will continue to grow. And as we reflect on this story, we see that it is not just about one coin but about the thrill of discovery, the idea that treasures can still be found in the most unexpected places, and that the tiniest details can hold the greatest value. And that is why the tale of the 2002 1-cent coin worth $90 million has captured the imagination of so many people, because it is a reminder that sometimes even the smallest things can carry the biggest treasures, and it inspires us all to look closer at the everyday objects we take for granted, because who knows? The next life-changing discovery could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And that is the incredible story of the 2002 penny worth $90 million, a story of mistakes, miracles, and unimaginable value that will continue to inspire awe, excitement, and wonder for generations to come. Next, 1995 D1-cent USA coin. Today, because we are about to dive into one of the most jaw-dropping and fascinating stories in the entire world of coin collecting and numismatics, a story that proves how something as small and overlooked as a simple penny can actually hold unimaginable fortune if it carries the right combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies. And in this video we are focusing on the 1995 D Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike with its estimated value of a staggering $20 million, a value driven by a unique set of mistakes that make this coin not just rare but one of the most valuable error coins ever to leave the United States Mint. And when we look at a 1995 D penny, most people would think of it as completely ordinary because billions were struck that year at the Denver Mint, with the obverse still featuring the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln first introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse still showing the Lincoln Memorial design that was in use from 1959 until 2008. But among all of those billions of ordinary coins, there exists one example so unique and so loaded with overlapping minting errors that it has been dubbed one of the rarest pennies in modern history. And it is that combination of features that makes it worth $20 million. And when we talk about why this coin is so valuable, we have to understand how error coins come into existence, because the minting process, while highly controlled, is still vulnerable to mistakes, and when dies are misaligned, or when they shift between hubbings, or when planches of the wrong composition are fed into the press, or when the press malfunctions in some way, the resulting coins can be spectacular anomalies that collectors go crazy for. And the 1995 D penny in question embodies all of these things at once, because not only does it show dramatic doubling on the obverse, making it a double die variety, but it was also struck on a transitional planchet of unusual composition, not consistent with the typical copper-plated zinc used in 1995, meaning metallurgical analysis revealed unexpected alloys suggesting it may have been struck on a leftover blank intended for a foreign coin. And on top of that, the coin is slightly off-center, with the obverse design shifted just enough to leave part of the planchet blank while cutting into Lincoln's portrait. And if that was not enough, the coin also carries die cracks that streak across the date and Liberty, raised lines of metal that prove the die was deteriorating and failing. And when you combine doubling, off-metal composition, off-center strike, and die cracks in a single coin, you are looking at a numismatic miracle, a coin so unique that it is essentially one of a kind. And uniqueness is what drives astronomical prices in the coin world, because collectors and investors will pay extraordinary sums for something they know no one else can own. And what makes the story of this 1995 D penny even more incredible is that it was discovered not immediately upon minting but years later by a dedicated collector carefully searching rolls of pennies, which means for a time this coin may have circulated, used by ordinary people in everyday transactions, passed from hand to hand without anyone realizing it was worth millions. And that is the beauty of coin collecting, that hidden treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. And so when this penny was finally authenticated by grading services, its story became legendary, and its valuation of $20 million reflects not only its physical rarity but also the narrative it carries, because people are not just paying for metal, they are paying for history, for the thrill of owning something born of chance and error, for the bragging rights of having one of the most famous pennies ever made. And if we break down the errors more deeply, we can see why each one adds to its appeal, starting with the double die obverse, which has always been one of the most popular categories of error coins, with famous examples like the 1955 double die penny fetching thousands or tens of thousands of dollars even in circulated condition. And the 1995 double die obverse without the Denver mint mark is already a known variety sought by collectors, but the 1995 D penny with doubling and other overlapping mistakes is a different level entirely, because the doubling on this coin is so dramatic that, in God we trust and Liberty appear doubled to the naked eye, and even Lincoln's eye and lips show signs of doubling, creating a ghost-like appearance that instantly grabs attention. And then we have the transitional planchet error, which is incredibly rare because it means the coin was struck on a blank that was never supposed to be used for pennies in 1995. And this could have been the result of leftover foreign planches from a US mint contract, or even an experimental blank mistakenly fed into the presses, and metallurgical tests confirmed unusual alloy traces inconsistent with the normal zinc core with copper plating. And that already makes this coin a once-in-a-generation find. And then add the off-center strike where the obverse is shifted just enough to expose part of the planchet and cut into Lincoln's portrait, creating an instantly visible and dramatic error. And finally the die cracks which streak across the coin like tiny rivers of raised metal, each one unique and each one telling a story of the die's deterioration. And taken together, these errors create a coin so rare and extraordinary that its valuation of $20 million begins to make sense, because collectors will pay whatever it takes to own the crown jewel of error coins. And if we put this into perspective with other legendary coins, we see the same pattern, because the 1943 copper penny has sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, The 1955 double die penny has fetched tens of thousands, and unique specimens like the 1974 aluminum cent or the 1969 S. double die obverse have reached astronomical figures, and the 1995 D penny with its multiple overlapping errors is right there among them, if not surpassing many in terms of sheer uniqueness. And what makes this even more exciting is the possibility that there could be more undiscovered 1995 D-era pennies out there, maybe not with the exact same combination of mistakes but with some degree of doubling, off-centering, or transitional planchette use, and that possibility keeps collectors searching every roll of pennies, every jar of coins, every pocketful of change, because the dream of finding a multi-million-dollar penny is what fuels the entire hobby. And imagine the life-changing discovery of pulling such a coin from circulation. At first glance it looks ordinary, dull, maybe dirty, but upon closer inspection the doubling, the off-center strike, the die cracks, and the unusual weight begin to tell a story, and suddenly you realize you are holding not just 1 cent but $20 million in the palm of your hand, and that dream is what makes the story of the 1995 D penny so powerful, because it reminds us that even in an age of mass production and precision minting, mistakes still happen, and when they do they create legends, and those legends become treasures that inspire awe, excitement, and endless curiosity. And so the 1995 D penny worth $20 million is not just a coin, it is a symbol of possibility, a reminder to pay attention to the little things, to look closer. Because sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest value, and it is this combination of chance, error, rarity, and narrative that ensures the legend of the 1995 D penny will live on for generations, inspiring collectors and dreamers to keep searching, keep hoping, and keep believing that treasures still lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment someone finally discovers them. And that is the incredible story of the 1995 D 1 cent coin valued at $20 million, a coin born of mistakes, elevated by rarity, and immortalized by the dreams it continues to inspire in collectors around the world. Last 1997 D 1 cent USA coin. Today we are diving into another unbelievable and fascinating story from the world of rare coins and numismatics. A story that proves once more how something as small and overlooked as a penny can hold a fortune beyond imagination if it carries the right set of minting errors and mistakes. And in this case we are talking about the extraordinary 1997 D Lincoln 1 cent coin that has stunned experts and collectors with a valuation of nearly $12 million, a figure that might sound unbelievable at first but begins to make perfect sense once you learn about the incredible set of anomalies that make this coin a true legend among error coins. And when we talk about a 1997 D penny, most people would imagine just a small ordinary copper-plated zinc coin struck in the billions at the Denver Mint with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and a Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Just another penny that passes through hands countless times every single day without anyone thinking twice about it. But out of those billions of coins, one extraordinary piece emerged that was unlike any other because of the combination of mistakes it carries. Mistakes that transformed what should have been a common 1 cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And when collectors describe this coin, they talk about it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery because it features several overlapping minting errors, including dramatic doubling on the obverse, a striking off-center error that shifted the entire design, unusual planchette composition that indicates it may have been struck on a leftover blank not intended for that year's pennies, and visible die cracks that streak across both the obverse and reverse, creating raised lines of metal that testify to the deterioration of the die. And when you combine doubling, wrong planchette, off-center strike, and die cracks all in one coin, you get something so unique and unrepeatable that its value skyrockets beyond imagination. And that is exactly why this 1997 D penny has been estimated at $12 million, because it is truly one of a kind. And if we take a closer look at each area, you will see how each adds layers of rarity and desirability, starting with the double die obverse, which is one of the most popular categories of coin errors with collectors. because famous doubled dies like the 1955 doubled die penny and the 1969's doubled die penny have sold for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and on the 1997 D penny the doubling is dramatic enough to be visible without magnification, especially on the words, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," where the letters appear doubled with ghost-like shadows and even Lincoln's eye and lips show doubling, giving the portrait an almost three-dimensional doubled effect. And then we have the off-center strike, which is also one of the most eye-catching errors collectors love, because it immediately shows the human eye that something is wrong, and on this particular coin the design is shifted enough that part of the planchette is left blank and part of Lincoln's portrait is cut off, making it clear this is no ordinary cent. And then the unusual planchette composition adds yet another layer of intrigue because metallurgical analysis showed that it was not the standard copper-plated zinc planchette used in 1997 but instead a blank with slightly different alloy traces suggesting either an experimental strike or a leftover blank from a foreign coin contract that somehow got fed into the presses at the Denver Mint. And such transitional or off-metal errors are some of the rarest and most valuable mistakes in coinage history, with past examples selling for astronomical sums. And finally we come to the die cracks that run across the coin like rivers of raised metal, with one particularly dramatic crack running across the date and another across the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And these cracks are not only visually striking but also serve as undeniable proof of the die's deterioration, meaning this coin was struck during a moment when the minting equipment was failing. And when you add all of these anomalies together in one coin, you begin to see why collectors would fight tooth and nail to own it. Because rarity in the coin world is not just about mintage numbers but about uniqueness. And there is only one coin known with this exact set of errors, making it literally one of a kind. And when something is one of a kind, it becomes priceless, because collectors will pay whatever it takes to have the bragging rights of owning it. And what makes this story even more amazing is the way the coin was discovered, because it did not come out of the mint in a protective holder or in some kind of special set but was actually found years later by a dedicated collector searching through rolls of pennies, which means this multi-million-dollar coin may have circulated for some time, used in ordinary purchases, sitting in cash drawers, dropped into vending machines, and passed from hand to hand without anyone realizing its true worth. And that is one of the magical aspects of coin collecting, that a life-changing treasure could be hiding right in your pocket change waiting for someone observant enough to recognize it. And so when this 1997 D penny was finally discovered, authenticated, and graded by professional services, it immediately became one of the most talked about coins in the hobby, because not only did it carry incredible errors, but it also carried an extraordinary story, the kind of narrative that collectors and investors crave, because owning such a coin is not just about the metal, it is about the history, the rarity, the legend, and the bragging rights, and the valuation of $12 million reflects not just its physical uniqueness but also the immense demand it would command in the open market, because wealthy collectors and institutions know that there will never be another one exactly like it. And if we compare it to other famous era coins, we see how extraordinary it really is, because the 1943 copper penny has sold for hundreds of thousands, the 1955 double die penny has reached tens of thousands, the 1974 aluminum cent is considered priceless because of its rarity, and the 1969's double die obverse has reached values in the six-figure range. Yet none of those combine as many dramatic errors in a single coin as the 1997 D penny does, and that is why its value is set at $12 million, a figure that shocks outsiders but makes perfect sense to seasoned collectors who understand that uniqueness drives the market. And this also raises the exciting possibility that there may be other undiscovered era coins from 1997 or other years waiting to be found. Perhaps not with the exact same combination of mistakes but with enough unusual features to be worth thousands or even millions. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching through rolls of pennies, jars of change, and even pocketfuls of coins, because the dream of finding that one incredible coin fuels the entire hobby, And when you think about it, the discovery of the 1997 D penny reminds us to always look closely at the little things, because sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest treasures. And so when you hold a penny in your hand, it may look ordinary, dull, and insignificant, but if you look closer you might notice doubling on the letters, or an off-center strike, or strange cracks in the metal, or unusual weight that hints at an off-metal planchette. And suddenly you realize that what seemed worthless could actually be worth life-changing money. And that is the beauty of this hobby, the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and the endless possibilities that lie hidden in plain sight. And the 1997 D penny worth $12 million embodies all of that perfectly, because it is not just a coin, it is a symbol of chance, rarity, and possibility, a reminder that even in a world of mass production and precision machinery, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they create legends, and those legends inspire generations of collectors to keep searching, keep hoping, and keep dreaming, because you never know when the next extraordinary discovery will be made, and that is why the story of the 1997 D penny will live on forever, as one of the most incredible tales in numismatic history, a coin born of mistakes, elevated by rarity, and immortalized by the dreams it inspires, a coin that proves beyond doubt that sometimes even a humble penny can be worth a fortune greater than gold.